Sorry. Anyway, we're having Sue is now coming. Where are you? Sue Gagne is... There you are. Okay. And find out what God's been doing in your life this year. A lot.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to say I hope the message that I'm going to give today is going to be encouraging to, if not everybody, somebody in here, because I have a little testimony. And I also want to thank Pastor Dave for asking me to do this, because it's given me the opportunity to do a lot of praying and thinking, and the Lord's been showing me things. So, first of all, I want to say that there's an expression in the world that says you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And God's been teaching this old dog new tricks. And I'm not telling you how old I am, it's a few decades, but that's my secret, and yours to ask. So, Jesus has said in his word, he says, seek and you will find. And I've been seeking all my life, well, since I can remember part of my life anyway. And I was about 3, my brother would have been 18 months, I guess, when my mother left us. And it left a tremendous hole in my life. I had no idea why she left, she just left. So my father took us to live with my aunt and uncle. And we ended up being a 2-family household. I sided with my father, and my brother went to my aunt and uncle, but he has no remembrance of my mother at all. Absolutely none. So my aunt and uncle became his parents, basically. But I could never get on with my aunt. Was a very Victorian upbringing. You didn't show emotion, you didn't show anger, you didn't ask questions, you were seen and you were not heard. And I always remembered my mother. In fact, the first night that I arrived at my aunt's house, I can remember she sat down on the bed with me and said, well, we'll say prayers. Now, my aunt and uncle were Catholic. And so we started with the Our Father and the Hail Mary and the Glory Be and all this stuff. And I looked at her and I said, well, my mother didn't teach me that. And I think, you know, looking back, that must have been a terrible, terrible blow to her. But to me, she wasn't my mum. So I grew up in this atmosphere. There was nothing, really nothing that I did was right. I couldn't please them. There was nothing I did that was right. So, 18, I went off, and then later on, well, first of all, I wanted to go to France to learn French, but young ladies at that period of time didn't do what their dads said they couldn't do. So he didn't want a young lady going to France and being all on her own, so I didn't go. But when I was 24, I decided, I had an aunt here in Canada, so I rebelled against everything, and I said, I'm going to Canada. I need freedom. So I rebelled. I came to Canada. I was free. I started medications. I started drinking coffee. I did all the things that I was not supposed to do. And it was great fun. And I went out with guys. It was fun. It was fun. I was incredibly innocent. I could have got into terrible trouble, but the Lord preserved me, though I didn't know he was doing it. Anyway, eventually I had a bad car accident and had to go back to England to recuperate. That took some time. Went to France, learnt my French, and then came back here. And again, started having a good time. It was wonderful. And brought up as a Catholic after the car accident, I absolutely and totally and completely rejected my faith. I mean, I just stuck 2 fingers up at God and said, well, if this is what you're going to do to me, I'm not interested in you. And my fiancé at the time, well, not my fiancé, but we were nearly engaged. He died in the car accident. So I wasn't pleased with God, really wasn't. Anyway, I got married, and the thing that I've had problems with all my life is knowing whether I'm loved. I had no idea what that word meant. People tell you they love you. Oh, really? What does that mean? And the questions I've always asked is, what is wrong with me? And why did my mother leave? And those were the questions I couldn't get answered. And so consequently, my life has been people-pleasing, trying to get people to like me, because love I didn't understand. And believe it or not, when my husband died, it's about 15 years ago now he died, I did not understand that he loved me until after he died. That's how bad it is, or was. Because since then, the Lord has taught me that he does love me. And I've had a lot of therapy. I've had deliverance. I've had therapy. I've done a bit of RTF. And there are people in this room that I need to thank. Sylvia is one of them. Linda is another. And an Ardella. Few people. I probably have left somebody out. But anyway, I've had a lot of therapy. But every time I had therapy, I still came at the end not totally healed. There was a lot of healing, a lot of deliverance. There was a lot of forgiveness and a lot of redeeming my different people. In fact, I even went back to England at one time and forgave my aunt, and she unfortunately only lived for 2 more years, but we had the last 2 years of her life where we renewed a relationship, so that was good. But anyway, this year was what I'm supposed to be talking about. I was to do this course calling Healing Life's Hurts. And I started it 2 years ago and came to the first course and thought, what on earth do I need this for? So I debunked. Then this year, I decided, okay, I'll do it, because they changed the name of the course. And then when I found out it was the same course I was supposed to have taken 2 years ago, I debunked again. And then at the last minute, I said to Sandy, can I get back on the course? Because I've had a lot of problems with not being loved and having this spirit of rejection, that when people leave the church, people don't do what I want to do in my job. Like I was a real estate agent, so that gave a lot of work for rejection. So anyway, a very good friend of mine was leaving the area, and again, I felt rejected and annoyed and angry and made a great display of it. And so I thought, maybe I need this course. If this person is leaving, I need some new friends. So I joined the course. And on the course the first thing I learned was that I'm not God. That was a big revelation. I cannot change the past. I already knew that. But the thing was, I was resting in the past. I was resting in the past because I was a victim. And I couldn't change it. I couldn't change this rejection spirit. I couldn't change these angry outbursts that I had, which nobody knew about because I would hide. I'd either go into my room, I would hide, I'd do it at home, I'd do it in my car in the traffic. But nobody really knew. Everybody thinks I'm a pretty nice person, but I'm not really. So anyway, this why question, why did she leave? I couldn't answer that. I just couldn't answer that. And so through the course, and in the aftermath of the course, is where God really, really, really worked on me, because it's not a course, this is the book. It's not a course that you just take and you're healed. It's a course that, well, for me anyway, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd learned. And little by little, the Lord showed me, and I made the decision, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I am not a victim. I am not. And then the other thing that he showed me was, you know, children, when their parents leave them or their parents divorce, which my parents eventually did, they divorced, you ask, what was my part in it? And I never thought I had a part in it. But the Lord showed me, no, you didn't have a part in it. It was not your fault. But all your anger that you've been showing is really an anger against what has happened because you feel sort of guilty and ashamed of what happened. In fact, I never told anybody that my parents were divorced. I was that ashamed of it. So I know that I am not guilty. I know that it was not my fault that my mother left. And I also know now that when any of you leave the church, because this was part of my request, because we had this wonderful animator who used to ask fabulous questions, and I just know now, the thing that I wanted to get out of the course was for people to be able to be free to leave me, which I translated as abandonment, to be able to leave me, and I would be able to say, Godspeed, you know, and I've learned that, and I'm free. I'm free in the Lord. And the other thing, I know that God loves me. I know that I matter to God. I mean, that was a big revelation. Rick Joyner said this in his course. You matter to God. And I thought, I matter to God? That was such a revelation. I mean, it was incredible. And every time now, if I start to feeling down or anything, I say, I matter to God. It's not scriptural. But boy, it spoke to me. And God can speak to you in any way he wants to. And the end of my message really is for any of you here, or maybe all of you here, who have problems of whatever, don't stop looking for answers. Because even at the decades that my age represents, God he's finally showed me. And I've been looking for it all my life. So don't stop looking, don't stop seeking. The answer is there. You just need to persevere. And I think that God really wanted me to go through this course just because I abandoned it twice and came back in and didn't want to do it. And yet look at all he's taught me. And I could have, you know, just not done it. And even in the first lesson that we had, I thought, oh boy, we're going through this again. But it was great. It was really, really great. So I just encourage you, seek and ask and knock, and you will find the answers.